Hazlitt's lesson. Somebody tell me the lesson. This should be easy. All the groups, short and long-term effects. Okay, I really did go to Bernie Sanders' website. There, don't go if you need to study for a test. One of his campaign pieces is fighting for or empowering tribal nations, I think is the way he worded it. Talking about the American Native Indians, I was going to empower the tribal nations. But I know I didn't read through all of it, but he's fighting a few girls in the room. I just read a little bit of that part. He said it's not fair that females make 78% less than men for the same jobs. The income gap between men and women, which is straight fraud. Yeah, I think that's too much, isn't it? It really is straight fraud. Or don't ever believe that when they bring it up. Straight fraud. Can anybody think, just in a typical business environment, why women would tend to make less than men? Is it really some bias thing? Okay, if some businesses, women aren't as strong. All right, when men are bigger, stronger, so that. Okay.
I just want to say where I work, women make up most of the workforce and they make more. So.
See there? The gender gap, right there. We need to picket. Wouldn't you feel so feminine outside picketing? No, I do not want to be a waitress. You're right about that. Or a waiter, for that matter. Wow. But in today's America, I guess I could be a waitress. Oh. Servers? That's so unscriptural. Genders are in the Bible, men and women. I'm just messing with you. It is irritating because they don't want to say men and women, so they call them servers. I know they have to come up with this gender neutral pronoun. It can't be a waiter and a waitress. Yeah. So anyway, it's like congressmen are now congresspeople, and there's like it's a congressman or congresswoman.
And
Steward. Yes. Anyway, so there's irritating. That's another topic complete. But anyway, the gender gap is complete fraud if you ever read about it or think about it or whatever. Sorry, we didn't really answer the question. Who typically takes care of children? Who takes time off to have babies? The guys and girls are different. And it's, I know, it's earth-shattering. There have been actual scientific studies that determine that. I mean, looking at the way men and women think about things and emotion, and measuring the way the synapses and everything work in the brain, and they've concluded that we're different. In case we needed that.
Well, halfway through the engineering bachelor's, you didn't see any women in the classes anymore, so careers possibly different.
Yes, and a lot. There's a physical difference, and then there's different choices. All right, and that if you take a woman and a man who really are the same, the same as in same education, same experience, same willingness to work overtime and extra hours, you get equal pay. Well, you get a guy and a girl at the same job, and the girl wants to work 30 hours, and the guy says, I'll work 50 or 60, I don't care. And the boss pays this guy a little bit extra. Okay. They're comparing apples to oranges. It'd be like saying, well, oranges are sweeter than apples. That's unfair. Well, they're different things. It's two different things. So I don't believe that. All right, let's apply Hazlitt's lesson. There's no Hazlitt's lesson to apply to that fallacy. It's just fraud. There's nothing to it. No Hazlitt's lesson. All right, he is going to take care of income and wealth inequity. All right. Let me just read you. He goes through all these great graphs and things, and eventually gets down to these bullet points of what he's going to do. And we don't take a whole lot of time. I just want you to think about Hazlitt's lesson and point out how some of these things are really stupid and how they're not going to help us out. All right, he wants to increase the federal minimum wage from $7.25 to $15 an hour.
$10.10 right now, isn't it?
I don't know.
The federal.
He's claiming I just printed it. I don't know. I really don't know what it is. There are states that
paying $10.10 on the federal level. It's not officially that, but that's.
Oh, to all
That's what I'm
all
talking
employees.
Federal employees,
Yes.
not states.
Yeah.
So each state is still independent to set theirs, but if you're a
And
federal
each-
employee in that state, the minimum you can make right now.
Yes.
is 10.
Yeah, that I do think is right. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, why is that stupid? The next line is really good too. In the year 2015, no one who works 40 hours a week should be living in poverty. Sounds good. Well, I mean, what if you decide you want to have a long, lustrous career of making gravel by hand? You can work 40 hours a week making gravel by hand, but you're going to be in poverty. I mean, anyway, there's all kinds of factors, not just the working 40 hours a week. So someone analyzed that. What's wrong with just let's raise the minimum wage and then nobody's in poverty? If that really was the case, I'd be all for it. I mean, why stop it at 15? Walter Williams wrote a great article. It's probably been 15 years ago. But he said, well, why stop at whatever it was at that point? Why not pay them what congressmen get paid? He did a little bit of work, and I think he came up with $200 an hour. So why stop there? You know, it's real income inequality. Let's make them the same pay as congressmen. If it really was true, I'd be all for it. But point out why it's false, why it's not going to work.
Businesses have to pay more for payrolls and their product.
Okay, whatever benefit the workers get is offset by the owners having to give up more money, or raising prices.
And this would be directly federal government workers, which means the federal government would need a law.
Well, no, this is the law for everybody, even private businesses.
This is the law for everybody?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. What you're saying, any federal employees, he's set the rate higher.
yes.
But this is a rule for everybody, even
It
private
says
business.
everybody? I thought it
Yeah.
was federal.
Well, it said federal minimum wage, meaning the dictate from the federal government.
Is that?
That's what that's the way it's reading.
My understanding was the federal minimum wage was just for federal employees.
I don't think so.
I don't know, sorry.
I get a paycheck every month. I don't never look at the hours. So I think it's,
But so pretty much knowing that, yeah, businesses would be forced to lay off massive amounts of people or figure out a way to do it cheaper or just close.
yes, and it'd be some of all of those things things happening. So, all right, what about this next one? Put at least 13 million Americans to work by investing $1 trillion towards rebuilding roads, bridges, railroads, airports, public transit system, ports, dams, water, wastewater plants, and other infrastructure needs. $1 trillion to put 13 million people to work.
You know how much money that is?
Apparently not. Here's the socialists. They don't count very good. So where's that $1 trillion coming from?
Us.
Yes, the people that don't have those jobs. Those 13 million get money, everyone else loses. Okay. If the 13 million is enough, this is directly for you. Create 1 million jobs for disadvantaged youth. Maybe I don't know if that's you or not. But these guys only get 5.5 billion. Age discrimination, right there. He mentions here free public universities. He has a separate whole line for that. Guaranteed health care as a right of citizenship by enacting Medicare for all. All right. Again, just guaranteed. Health care is a whole other. How about this one? Requiring employers to provide at least 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave.
Wow.
Now that's total. I mean, some of that's medical leave, so if you're sick or something like that. So it wouldn't be all just straight 12 weeks of vacation, but 12 weeks of paid leave.
That's 3 months.
Yes.
That's a fourth of the year.
Somebody point out how that's not going to bring prosperity to our country. I can't tell if Meadows jealous. She's going to vote for Bernie Sanders now, or she's aghast at it. I'm joking with you. No? Yeah, when her mouth is open, I can't tell if it's like, wow, that sounds great, or wow, that's really, what did I say? Oh, that girl in the back. They all run together. Yeah, should be Amanda. If I called you Amanda, then no, it makes sense. So, hey, you. Someone point out why the 12 weeks is not going to bring prosperity. It's the same answer for all of these.
They're not working the whole time.
Okay.
They'll probably just use it up because they have it.
It's paid.
Wait a second. I use up all my vacation. What are you talking about? Wait, they're going to use it up. Okay, so that's true.
It would create more jobs.
You create more jobs.
Coming from the other people, not
the employer's got to pay this. So he's paying people to do nothing. If that brings prosperity, then I want in line. I want to be paid for doing nothing. That's both. Altogether, 12 weeks. Yeah. So. All right. So anyway, if he has his way, there'll be. He might take care of the inequality. We're all going to be poor. All right. So. All right. Another thing he's going to do is fighting to lower prescription drug prices. All right. First party sounds like Donald Trump. Negotiate a better deal. Require Medicare to use its bargaining power to negotiate a better deal with the drug companies. Okay. This next one is really interesting. Require pharmaceuticals and people like that to buy their drugs from Canada. He says they pay 40% less for drugs in Canada than they do in America. So we're going to buy all... Right. He does not bother even speculating as to why the drugs are so much more expensive in America than they are in Canada. If we fix that problem, it would take care of it. So there's so much regulation and fraud and lawsuits and things like that the price of drugs is skyrocketing. How about restore discounts for low-income seniors? Anyway, we're going to be paying, again, the thought is if we make the drugs less expensive for seniors, then they're going to have money to spend elsewhere. We're going to take the most fragile and vulnerable people in our society and make them pay high drug costs. So we're going to subsidize it. The government's going to pay, the first 50% or whatever the formula ends up being. Someone analyzed that with Hazlitt's lesson.
The government's going to pay for it. That means we pay for it.
Yes, it's coming from us. All right. That's anytime you hear the government giving away money, hold on to your wallet or your purse, whatever the case is, or change your passwords. They're coming for your money. This one, prohibit deals that keep generic drugs off the market. All right, what he's wanting to do is generic drugs, I use them whenever they're available. But if some company invests millions of dollars, which is not unusual, to come up with a new drug, then they have exclusive rights to that for a certain number of years. No one else, they can't make knockoffs. You have to buy it through them. And they have to recoup their money or they go out of business. So this is expensive. What he's wanting to do is make it illegal or make it legal for anybody to make knockoffs at any point, basically. Some company spends $10 million, come up with a new drug that helps with cancer. Then everybody else who didn't invest any money says, oh, we can make that and sell the thing. That's exactly what will happen. The new drugs will dry up and be gone. All right. I really didn't follow too much. There was a CEO of some company who was charging, they kept talking about these extraordinary rates for some drug in the last 6 months, and this guy was some young guy and greedy and all on and on. What it was is they'd put a lot of money out, and they've got to recoup it. They're not in this just to help humanity. They're there to make money. And if the government strips away that, then there'll be no new drugs. Doesn't just happen by itself. So, all right, we can go on and on and on. The answer really to all of his comes back to the same thing. The money comes from other people. If we're giving away free college tuition, then other people are giving up the money. If we're giving away free drugs, other people are coming up the money. If we're going to, pay women equally, maybe that's where the 12 months of leave comes in. So if we have to pay you for doing nothing. I'm kidding. So, all right, Bernie Sanders, crazy old white man. They're not all crazy. Questions about Hazlitt's lesson? Or comments? Who ended up winning when I quit listening last night? It was tied between Cruz and Ohio, Cruz and Trump. No, it wasn't Illinois or Ohio. I think it was Missouri. Anybody know who won? Okay. I didn't care enough. What's that?
I did the baseball game on it.
Oh, that was more important. All right, let's talk about free enterprise and socialism. Yesterday we just looked at a little bit of biblical foundation. Which one is supported by the Bible? Free enterprise or socialism? Well, there are Christians that believe that. Right. The free enterprise system, that is supported by the Bible. Some people really look at, they really do argue that the Bible teaches socialism. They look at the early Christians and how they had all things in common, and there's lots of differences there. One is if you yeah, and if you keep reading, they don't keep doing that. There's no government taking the money from everybody and pulling it. It was a voluntary thing. If you guys want to give me all of your money and live in common, I'll take it. It was a voluntary thing. So it's a very, very different situation. There's no government coercion here collecting the money. So really, free enterprise, that is the way the Bible pushes us, what it teaches. What I want to do today is look at free enterprise and look at socialism in a little bit of detail here. The first thing I'll do is give you a definition of free enterprise and a little bit of explanation, some basic parts of a free enterprise system. And then we will take some time and look at some complaints that are leveled against a free market system, things liberals say about a free market system, how unfair it is, et cetera, et cetera. And think about them and try to, maybe the criticism is true or maybe it's not, and try to think about why not. All right, so first of all, definition. This is not a deep or technical definition. Free enterprise is a system in which each person is free to use his resources to buy whatever, and then I have this in quotation marks and I can explain, scarce resources he can afford. A system in which each person is free to use his resources to buy whatever scarce resources he can afford. We talked yesterday about how we have to decide who gets what, buy and sell it, highest bidder, strongest. Maybe you could do some global lottery system to award the houses on the, how are we going to distribute everything? Assumed in that is there's not enough of everything. If there were houses for everybody on that little peninsula I talked about yesterday in the islands, then everybody would have one. The resource wouldn't be scarce. The reason we have to decide who gets what is there's not enough. All right, and that's true of lots of things. How do we decide who gets a car in America? You get a license and they give you a car. Do you really want a government-issued car? The license is bad enough. But really, do we give one to everybody? How do we decide that? Then the problem comes down to that it's scarce. So that term scarce, a lot of times economists will talk about these scarce resources. And by that, they just mean there's not enough of everything to go around. We don't, at least not too often, do we pay for air. I don't know. There's enough there for everybody, pretty much as you want. If some of you start hogging too much, then maybe we'll have to regulate it. But it's not scarce. But the scarce resources in a free market system, you're free to buy whatever you can afford. Right? You can take things that you have that other people want, and you make an exchange. Right? We use money to facilitate that exchange, but it's ultimately you're taking your scarce resources to buy other resources. You exchange your time and labor for money at work, and you take that money and exchange it for other things at the store or tuition or whatever. All right, so a system in which each person is free to use his resources to buy whatever scarce resources he can afford. All right, a couple of points here about that before we look at the complaints. First of all here, man is still responsible to God. So don't think here that in a free market system it's just, it's cutthroat and survival of the fittest. No, we're still responsible to God. So it is not here saying that there's no restraints. We are ultimately responsible to God. Okay, second thing is that we are individuals who make our own decisions and manage our own affairs. You're responsible to manage your own affairs. If the prospect of cat food in retirement doesn't excite you, then you should save some money. Or have lots of children and teach them to take care of you or something. You should do something to plan for that, but it's your responsibility to plan for it. If I don't know, if I want to have a car that works, I have to plan to fix it at some point. It doesn't go forever. It breaks down. So it would be stupid for me to not factor that into my planning and have some money ready, some plan to pay for it. So anyway, I manage my own affairs. I'm responsible for that as an individual. And yesterday we talked about how as we manage our own affairs, we're pursuing our own self-interest. I'm doing things that benefit me. when I save money for car repair, I'm not thinking about your truck. Sorry. That's your responsibility. But his and maybe more your dad's and Ben's desire to have their truck fixed calls them to put a roof on my house. Right? They did get a lot of my money, and I don't know what they did with it. But their self-interest calls them to do something for me, and my self-interest of not wanting my roof to leak calls me to agree to pay them money. But I'm pursuing my own self-interest. Right? So don't think they're necessarily in a sinful self-interest, but I'm pursuing those things. The free market system really does blunt our sin nature. All right. Wasn't it Amanda that was making the gumballs? Yeah, you switched seats. I'm so confused now. I was confused before too, but you also switched seats, and I'm still confused. So, she was making those gumballs because she wants to make money for her. All right, she fired all of those employees so callously, and she stood by the door and rubbed her fingers like Mr. Potter in It's Wonderful Life, or Scrooge, and or something. Rubbing her hands together, she's thinking about all the money she's going to make. She's pursuing her self-interest, all right? And all of us are pursuing our self-interest. We want the gumballs for as little as we can pay. So she says, well, I'm going to charge $1. Then none of us buy them. So it puts her desire to make money at odds with our desire to keep our money, and it forces her to produce something we want more than we want our money. All right? In order for her to make a lot of money as this evil business owner, she's going to make lots of people happy. All right? It puts her sin natures against each other. When you think of a very large, very successful company, the right way to think about it isn't, wow, what evil, wicked people that ripped off everybody. It's, wow, what were they producing that people were willing to give them so much money? Freely. It's a free market system. Why were people willing to give them so much money? They must be producing something everybody wanted. So anyway, this free market system, it puts their sin natures at odds with each other. Their desire to make lots of money forces them to do things that I want done so that I'll pay them. All right, so it puts us at odds. So anyway, serving our own self-interest. All right, third point here about the free market system is the job of the government is to protect the individual from outside harm. Protect the individual from outside harm. I just need to give you these points, and we'll get to the complaints in a minute. It's not there to force you to save for retirement, or force you to save money for health insurance, or force you to kill all the dandelions in the yard so that your neighborhood looks nice, or paint your house. None of that. It's there to prevent fraudsters from coming and stealing your money and hacking into your bank account or holding you up in the street, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Outside harm, both crime as well as foreign countries attacking. That's the job of the government, to prevent that. All right, a referee, a sporting analogy, I think really is the best fit here. All right, the fourth point is that individuals are free to do as they want as long as they don't infringe upon others. I could say, I'm gonna make personalized gravel, like I alluded to earlier. I only say that because I went to see the Olsons when they were in Africa, and there were people making gravel. There's this rock face, and there were people up on the rock face knocking big rocks off to the bottom, and people on the bottom breaking up the big rocks into gravel. Talk about. And they weren't prisoners either. This was their job. Remember driving by that? Wow. So I want to make personalized gravel, was my point here. I'm free to do that. I'm going to go bankrupt, right? No one's going to buy it. Maybe we could initial each piece of gravel, and I can talk about the great joy you're going to find as you drive up your driveway on this gravel that's personally initialed by me. And, you're going to pay 10 times as much, but think of no one's going to buy it. Okay, I'm free to do that. Right? You're free not to buy it as well. So we're free to do what we want as long as we don't infringe upon others. All right, and then the last thing here under this definition is that a free market system does require morality and character. Morality and character. It is a Christian system. If you have a group of non-Christian people, then it's not going to function very well. We're getting to live through that. Okay, let's talk about some complaints that are lodged against the free market system. We got 8 of these to look at. All right, these are some false accusations that are made against the free market system, and I'm already telling you they're false, so I want you to think about why they're false and hopefully come up with an answer. So, all right, first one, it's wrong to profit from the misfortune of others. On the surface, it sounds pretty good. Yeah, what jerk would take somebody who's had a terrible day and then profit from it? Usually they'll at this point talk about some natural disaster, the flood in the Mississippi, and everybody's basements are flooded, so all the local hardware stores start raising the price for shop vacs. Or before a hurricane makes landfall, all the hardware stores charge a whole lot more for plywood to cover up the windows. And they say, oh, these evil, wicked people, how can they live with themselves, living and making a profit off the misfortune of others? Okay. Good, bad? Is that a true thing, bad thing? What do we think? It's a bad thing. Think about how doctors make their living. Other than maybe people delivering babies, I won't argue that that's a misfortune. but your family doctor, you go there, you're sick, and he charges you. He's profiting off of your misfortune. The Martins profited off of my misfortune of having an old roof. You wicked people, I've always thought that. Auto repair people. The whole job is profiting upon the misfortunes of others. All right. So really, it's a very false accusation. Really, the way to think of it is the fact that there's profit ensures that there's somebody there to help you. Imagine if there's no profit in auto repair. The government said, all right, no, you can't. You can only cover the cost of the product, whatever the parts are you're installing. No profit. Your car breaks down, and you're going to drive vainly through town looking for a repair shop because there's not going to be anybody there waiting to repair it. What's that?
You'll be buying a new car.
Yeah, see, there's someone else profiting from your misfortune. But really, the fact that there's profit ensures there's somebody there waiting to help you. All right. Several years ago, I cut the top of my leg with a chainsaw. Very interesting experience if you get bored sometime. All right. And so I went to the hospital, Michigan City. And I was able to walk into the emergency room, and there were doctors there waiting for me. I didn't have to call ahead of time. They were there waiting for me, hoping I would come in because they want to make a profit on me. And I was pretty glad they were there waiting on me because I wanted my leg sewed back up. All right, so this idea that the profit, it ensures there's somebody there to help you. All right, and that isn't a small thing if you think about trying to strip that out. Even the extreme cases where there's a tornado coming and they start charging more for plywood, well, it's either, let's say it's $20 a sheet normal price, and they start charging $50 a sheet. Well, at $50 a sheet, they're going to be able to hire private trucks to bring the plywood in. They're going to get plywood there at $50 a sheet, which means you get to board your house up. Right? It ensures there's somebody there to help. All right, so again, this idea it's wrong to profit from the misfortune of others is completely hollow. All right, it's vast portions of our whole economy are based upon that, and it's not wrong or evil. So, all right, second criticism. Prices are unreasonably high. In a free market system, prices just skyrocket, and it's so unfair, unreasonably high. This one is funny if you just remember this is a free market system. What happens if prices are unreasonably high?
People don't buy it.
Yeah, nobody buys it. Okay, so if this were true, if there was some product that was unreasonably priced, then nobody buys it. All right, so, usually they will look at something like gas and say, oh, these gas companies are gouging us. They're charging too much money, unreasonably high. Well, if it is unreasonably high, don't buy it. Are there other alternatives? You could walk. You could ride your bike. carpool, buy a horse, stay at home. You could join the dumb car revolution and buy an electric car. Right? There are other options. Okay, the problem is those options are less convenient than paying the high price for gas. Okay, and if it really is unreasonably high, then do something else. Don't be the idiot that still buys it. Okay, I think I mentioned yesterday when gas prices spiked after 9/11, I bought a different car. I had a full-size conversion van. It was really nice, great for trips. But man, did it hurt filling that thing up. I don't think there's still the limit. At that point, it was a lot of gas stations had a $45 limit on a charge. And I remember maxing it out twice to fill the thing up. And enough, it'd do 45 and then another 45, and it would run out before it filled up. So I bought a different car. All right, I figured out how to use less gas. So anyway, unreasonably high. It's a free market. Don't buy it. If you think that Apple products are outrageously priced, what's the answer?
Buy Asus.
Yeah, buy a different product, okay? I don't have anything Apple. I'm trying to think if there's anything Apple. I have apples. What's that?
It's a worthless company.
Well, it's a worthless company that gets people to pay a lot of money for its products. There's a lot of people that don't think it's unreasonably high. So anyway, it's a free market, really. This idea that prices are unreasonably high. It's a free market. Why are you so stupid as to go pay more than something is worth? It's just way out of line. Why are you so stupid?
Their argument for
Oh, I thought you were going to explain why you were so stupid.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, drop. No, I went through, what's it called? Sociology and those kind of things, and because they were requirements. And I went through one class, cultural diversity, and we talked about some of this a little bit. It was interesting having to defend, the American system with a bunch of Americans. But we got to the idea, and pretty much the way they talked about gas was, it's a necessity. It's like if people start charging extra for food, but they were alluding that everybody was doing it. And my argument was, there's going to be one company that sees that everybody else is charging an outrageous amount of money, and to make more money will purposely
Their
put
sin
their
nature
prices
will
down.
cause them, their self-interest will
It's the
cause
same
them to...
thing. They were equating, they were pretty much saying it'd be impossible for everybody to walk to work. And in some areas, it would be impractical for you to walk 2 hours to work or something, but people would still be willing to do it if they had to. They were just, pretty much their laziness was dictating their decision. They're saying it's
He mentioned that other companies will cut in. It's been a long time ago now, but florist shops, I forget the markup. Years ago, they used to charge all kinds of, just tremendous markup. And some guy realized that he could buy flowers at wholesale prices and mail them to people's houses for less than he could buy them at the florist shop. And out of that, we get FTD and all these people that will mail flowers to you. The guy realized that, wow, they're charging so much for flowers. I could charge less and deliver it to somebody's house. And that will happen. The free market will let that happen. And that never enters into the conversation.
I may have entered that.
Yeah. So, okay, so prices aren't reasonably high. And it's a free market. Don't buy it. All right, third criticism. I wish I could claim that this phraseology was my own, but it's not. Here it is, a little bit long. Left of free market forces, large companies will gain a monopoly, not a monopoly game, very different, gain a monopoly, control prices, generate excessive profit, and eliminate the competition. Sounds like a good board game. Gain a monopoly, control prices, generate excessive profit, and eliminate the competition.
One more time.
Yes, I can. Left the free market forces. You got to rub your hands and be a little bit evil to say this. Large companies will gain a monopoly, control prices, generate excessive profit, and eliminate competition. One more time. How many of remember in American history or other places talking about the fear of large companies and how they began to get regulated? This is it right here. All right. All right, they talk about the free market run wild. We're going to have these certain large companies consolidate everything to themselves and drive out the competition, raise prices arbitrarily, make excessive profit. I don't know what excessive profits are, but they'll make them. All right. True, false? Why is it false? Why is it true? It's true? Okay. Went to sociology classes too long. Okay, in a free market, if some company does get very large and get to this position where it's the only supplier in a certain industry, what is true about it? In a free market,
They deserved it because they worked hard to get
they deserved it. They're really good, right? It means that they did get rid of the competition, but they drove them out of business. Now we're talking about in a free market. We're not saying that they should be allowed to hire mobsters to mow down the employees of the other companies or something like that, or firebomb their plant. We're not talking about that. We're talking about just free economic competition here, fair and free economic competition. It means they're very good. All right. So what is there to fear? All right. Other things.
To counter what do they say? The prices and the excessive profits, and especially limiting competition. If they say that corporation will get so big it doesn't care anymore and won't provide good services and things like that.
Just say Enron.
That businesses will spring up because they see the dissatisfaction. That's
Oh, yeah.
why other businesses are still in play, even though Walmart's absolutely massive. There's still Target. There's other ones because they claim to have maybe better products or they
Yeah.
claim to have better services.
And as soon as Walmart loses that edge,
Mhm.
they'll become Kmart. Really, as soon as they lose the edge, they're going to go away. There are other, JCPenney's are going out of business like crazy now. There are other stores that used to be massive. Sears are going out of business a lot of places. All right, so as soon as they lose that edge, they do care. So, all right, here I got several points to make here. Christina, hit the first one, that if this really happened, it means they're the best at what they're doing. They're doing a good job. So what is there to fear? If the just the Warriors in the NBA, some of you guys know, that are on track to beat the Bulls record.
Yeah.
If they do that, it means they're good, right? And in a sporting world, it's easy to see that. We could say they eliminated the competition, but they outscored them. They were better than them. All right. So if we do get a company that hits this position, it means they're very good. A company that came very close to this, I referenced in American history, was Standard Oil. Back in the late 1800s, they were one of or the first, I forget offhand, to be hammered by the government for being too large. All right. They were accused of having this monopoly basically over kerosene production. And the time frame that they had this monopoly, the price of kerosene went from $2 a gallon to 6 cents a gallon. Right? The only way they were able to maintain that dominant position was to continually stay ahead of the competition. They had to keep finding cheaper, less expensive ways to supply kerosene. And they drove the price down to 6 cents a gallon, and then the government hammered them for being too successful. Okay? And Mitchell or Meadow or Mary or whoever you are back there is squinting at me saying, how could it be so stupid? And I agree with you. How could it be so stupid? All right? But that is a company that got very close. They were into the 90% share of the whole refining market. And they can only maintain that by being absolutely the best. So, more in my lifetime, AT&T was hammered for being too large and split up into all these little companies. And then even more recently than that, I'm trying to remember the deal, Microsoft.
I think they preemptively split into some companies.
It was something with Explorer. They were, if you're going to put Word and Window and all that on a computer, you had to put Windows Explorer. And the government said that was monopolistic and they could not require that.
Even though it's free.
Yeah, but I mean, anyway, some companies wanted to just use Windows and Word and all that, but not Explorer, come up with their own internet browser. And Microsoft is saying, no, if you're putting all of our software on, you also have to put Explorer. And they're going to say, no, that's monopolistic. You can't do that. So anyway, this fear of large companies, it's not going to die. It's there, but it's completely irrational. Okay, all right, so we have the fact that they're very good. The second thing here, just a point to make, is that breaking up these large companies punishes the most successful companies. I mean, we're going to take the people that are the best at what they're doing and split them up. And imagine the NBA if the championship team every year had to be disbanded. The 5 starting players had to go to separate teams the next year. We'd all say, "What are you guys? That's insane. What's wrong with us?" But that's what we do to businesses. All right, one more thing here. Significant thing is that this has never happened anywhere in a free market system. This fear of large companies gaining this monopoly, controlling prices, generating excessive profit, etc. This never happened in a free market. There have been companies that got close to the monopoly position, but the other things never happened. There are companies who were given a monopoly by the government, and we're no longer talking about a free market, and this has happened. All right, buy a house and have to pay a utility bill, and you'll get to deal with a government-mandated monopoly. They're the only ones that supply energy, gas and electric to this area. Or a lot of places, the trash service, the government picks one company that's going to do all the trash service in the area, and you're forced to deal with them. If you don't want them to do your trash, you're up the creek if you don't like their price. All right, so there are places where there are government-instituted monopolies where we see this type of abuse, but it has never happened in a free market. So it'd be just like saying, we need to strap, 50 or 100-pound weights, more than that, maybe 200-pound weights on all the cows to make sure they don't jump over the moon. Hey, diddle, diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. It's never happened anywhere. But, just to be careful. Let's tie them down. It's never happened. So anyway, very irrational fear here, but it's there. All right, questions there? Fourth one. Yeah, fourth one. We've got to keep moving. Capitalism will exploit labor. Or you can just generally put labor will be exploited. All right, you will be abused by your boss and be paid these minuscule wages, barely surviving, just ahead of starvation, while your boss lives like a fat cat. All right, in a free market, what's the answer? Walk away from the job. Quit. It's a free market, right? Really, if it is really starvation wages, walk away. Nobody is going to do the job at those wages. And either he's going to do it all himself or he's going to have to change his tune. I have watched, it's hard to admit it, some American Girl films with my children. And there's one about a girl who's all upset about the factories. I think we might have talked about Samantha. And I had to stop and point this out to them in the middle of that socialist propaganda. They're talking about how bad the factories are, and these kids are in there sewing all this stuff, and the one kid sews over his finger, and the manager's yelling at him. Okay, I stopped it right there, and I said, "Look at those line of people over there waiting for a job. Why are they there waiting for a job? I mean, really, if it's as bad as everybody talks about, why are they there? There's literally a line of people out the door waiting to take a job in this factory, and the reason was it was better than anything else available. We look at the factory and say, I don't work there." But it was better than the other alternatives, and that doesn't get brought up too often. So anyway, if your boss is exploiting you, they say, "All right, we're going to for the rest of the week, we're going to take half your tips." And they say, "Okay, well then I guess I'm not working." It's a free market. You don't have to go in. All right, another one, number 5. Employees deserve a cut of the profits above their wages. You work for Exxon, you're a truck driver delivering fuel to the gas stations or something, and the company makes $10 billion this year. People will say, "Oh, the employees, they need a cut of that." All right, give me some answers.
How's the company going to stay afloat if you take all the money from it?
Okay, one, the company needs that money to buy new equipment, other things. What is an employee's share of the profits? Their wages. They already got their profits. And often if you turn it around and, well, what if the company loses $10 million next year? Do you want your cut of that? I could live with this if it went both ways. All right, we're going to have a profit sharing scheme. If the company makes money, we'll share with you. If we lose money, then we expect you to take a cut in your wages. And that, anyway, people that argue about this never want the cut. They always just want to share the profits. But anyway, you get that you have a cut. It's your wages. So, all right, next one. The government is the only way to really distribute goods fairly. Yes, so hopefully you react by just snickering. What? The government is the only way to really distribute goods fairly. I took an economics course at Purdue in the middle of my getting my master's in mathematics. But the first part of the course was really good. It was all, free market stuff. And then we had a chapter about 2/3 of the way through, and it literally said, sometimes we need the government to moderate the free market because it's unfair. And then it went into this whole world of government intervention, and that was the only, just that one statement. This is a self-evident truth. Of course it's unfair. We need the government to make it fair. All right, somebody tell us about that. Frank looks like he wants to, I think, but I can't. Okay.
We don't need the government to make it fair.
Okay, we don't need the government, yeah. They're saying that people in a free market are governed by their sin nature and are going to be unfair and cheat people. And are implying that people that work for the government have no sin nature. That's what they're implying, that the government's going to be fair. Of course they're not going to be motivated by pride or greed or fraud.
The government just has a absolutely spectacular track record of just messing up just about anything they touch. So
Just about, or anything, we can drop the...
yeah.
Yeah.
Once in a while they get a war right, but other than that...
Even there they overpay usually.
There.
Right, the government has a very, very bad track record with this. But really, I think even we have the track record. But really, the assumption is that somehow the people in the government are pure and unselfish and have no sin nature. And that's completely false. The people in the government have the same sin nature as us. They just are then given the power, if they don't like you, to put you in jail or to fine you or something like that. In a free market, if I don't like Jacob, I'm going to drive him out of business. The only legal way to do that is to be better than him in business. Right? If I'm in the government and I don't like Jacob, then I have the IRS go after him like they did all the conservative organizations. Right? So we have the same sin nature in both places. Just if we have the government world, we don't have the free market to blunt that sin nature. So anyway, it won't work. I have a little note here. If this is the case, then the Soviet Union and China should be the fairest and nicest places in all of history. Okay. I don't want to live in either one of those places. Or maybe North Korea, we could throw in there. Or maybe a prison, you could argue, is a very nice place to live because goods are distributed fairly. Everybody gets their orange jumpsuits. It's all fair. So anyway, very, very bad. All right, next one. Capitalism or free market is based on greed. Two more. You guys have listened very slowly today. The free market is based on greed. Greedy businessmen come up with products to sell to people to take their money away. Greed.
Those horrible grocery stores providing people with
I
food.
know. How can they expect to make money? It should just be the joy of feeding fat people that they do this for. So, go your own food. Okay, this is my answer to that one, is that the free market actually recognizes that people are greedy. And that's a social system assumes we're not greedy, that we're all innocent and pure, and we will all contribute for the common good and only pull out what we want, what we need. It assumes there's no greed. The free market, it says, yeah, we're greedy, so we need something there to cause your greed to make you to do nice things for other people. So it actually recognizes, it's not based on it, it's realistic. It'd be like, I don't know, coming up with plans for new buildings and not recognizing that there's gravity. And then looking at people that have a building design that's based on gravity and say, look, these evil people, they base their building on gravity. And say, yeah, it exists. We have to plan for it. And socialism, greed is there. It doesn't plan for it. It assumes it's not there, and it doesn't work. All right, last one, number 8. The free market or capitalism is unsustainable because of scarce resources. This one is laughable in light of history, but basic thought is that the free market is going to overconsume. The desire for people to have products made out of wood is going to cause us to just mow down every tree on the planet, and then we'll have no wood. And
Sorry, why is it unsustainable?
Well, I haven't answered that yet, but explaining the accusation. Or we're going to overpopulate the earth and then we'll have mass starvation, or our desire to have fancy homes with air conditioning is going to cause us to overheat the planet, and then we'll all die in this inferno of some kind. So, yeah, we are.
Isn't this kind of the logic behind the government subsidizing like wind farms and solar and stuff like that?
The climate
Because
change, yeah.
They believe that, if we do coal, which is cheaper, we'll...
It's not sustainable. I mean,
Yeah,
they talk
that's
about
what they are.
renewable resources and things like that because the others are not renewable. We can't make more coal easily. So, okay, this is my answer to this one, is that all these complaints, there's lots of them from different angles, but all of them freeze, and not in the cold sense, but they freeze the natural resources available and allow the consumption to increase. Like they'll look at the food production in 1970 and freeze it at that level, and then let the population increase. And say, look, in 20 years, we're going to starve to death. Can anybody tell me what's going to happen as the population increases? What's going to happen with the food production? It's going to go up, all right? But they freeze it. They'll take the amount of oil we know of today and freeze it and let the population and the consumption of oil go up. And even today they're saying it's going to be 400 years or something, but they freeze it. Right? They don't factor in that we're going to find more oil. Right? They never do that. And all of these, they take the current amount of resources and let the rate of consumption increase and then say, look, we're going to run out of fuel. The most laughable of these, really, is a guy named Paul Ehrlich who wrote a book back in 1971 called The Population Bomb. And this is a quote from the book. This guy is still read and looked up to with respect in academic worlds. But this is a quote from his book, written in 1971. The battle to defeat all of humanity is over. In the late 70s and 80s, hundreds of millions of people will starve to death in spite of any crash program embarked upon now. At this late date, nothing can prevent a substantial increase in the world death rate. You remember reading about in the history books, it's not there. Okay. The 80s, Reagan's in as president and, he's dealing with mass starvations around the country. No, it's not there. I get that. But there's these types of things over and over and over again. They say, the free market is going to overuse all the resources. And it is completely foolish. Completely foolish. Okay, questions about those? You guys have listened slowly today. Let me at least start into socialism. This section is significantly shorter. I really want to try to get in. We go till 45. We got 5 minutes. All right, let me give you a very brief definition. Socialism, communism, command economy. There's lots of words here to describe the same thing. But here, instead of each individual being free to buy what they want, the government decides who gets the scarce resources. The government decides. You get married and want your own apartment, you have to wait for the government to give you one. Or you, I was watching some film, can't remember what it was, but it was set in the Soviet Union. And somebody took a visitor to his apartment, and there were 4 families sharing the same kitchen. That's all they had. That's what they had been issued. They all had their own apartments with this common kitchen. One stove, one fridge, and they're all, you can imagine all the women in there trying to make food for their families. But the government decides who gets what. They weren't worth their own kitchens, apparently. So a couple of thoughts about this command economy. The command economy, those advocates, people that push this, forget that man is a sinful creature. The sin nature is not even brought into the picture. Like we mentioned, the free market recognizes that. The socialist command economies do not. They assume that there's not a sin nature and people will naturally do the right thing and nobody will cheat and nobody will be lazy, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? Second thing is that this command economy or social systems, they always look at the good of the group over the good of the individual. That's how they justify killing off people that disagree with them. The farmers in the Soviet Union that didn't want to give up their farms to join these gigantic collective farms. They just killed them, which is fine. It's okay if a few people die. Even Lenin said it's okay if 3/4 of the world dies, as long as the last quarter is communist. It's okay, the good of the group. I'm not sure how killing off 3/4 of the people is good for the group, but don't worry about that. All right, I just have 3 misconceptions about the free market system. Let me mention them. I'll probably review them next Tuesday a little bit. All right, first one is, we've kind of answered these from the other side, but misconceptions, is that the free market will not distribute goods fairly and the government has to assist. That is an accusation or a misconception. Then in a command economy, at least everything's shared fairly. Not true. All right, the second one is that the evil and waste of competition will be eliminated in a command economy. The competition is vital to a free market, vital to economy. It'd be like having the NBA. In American history, we talked about this yesterday. Instead of having all of the games, the owners just field a team and then we have a vote or something at the end of the season to see who the best team was. There's no actual competition. Then the guys wouldn't be any good. The competition creates the skill. And here the free market supposedly has a lot of evil and waste. How many delivery companies do we need? UPS and FedEx? Come on, let's combine it all and we won't have all the waste, is the accusation. All right, and then the last misconception is there's just more security in a socialist system. More security. You're guaranteed a job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's more security in the sense that there's more security in prison. You're guaranteed a place to stay, you're guaranteed food, health care, et cetera. And that's the trade-off. In a free market, you have to go out and get your own food, find your own place to live, but you're in a free market. If you want to put yourself in a command economy, sure, those things are guaranteed to a certain extent, but you're in a prison, and if you really think prison life is great, then we can help you get there. Right? Don't vote in the elections. It's not. So, okay, command economy. There's a few little things there to tie that up that we'll have to do next week, and then look at supply and demand before our test. So, all right, see you then.